The Invisible Man is directed and written by Leigh Whannell and is it stars Elizabeth Moss, Aldous Hodge, Oliver Jackson Cohen, and among others. And this is a reboot of the classic Invisible Man monster films from the original Universal classic monster movies. And also, it's a new adaptation of the novel the same name by H.G. Wells. And in this film, we have Elizabeth Moss, who plays this woman who is trying to get away from her abusive boyfriend, and as comes to find out that he ends up killing himself in a suicide. And as you see in the trailers, so to speak,
yeah.
As you see in the trailers, there's a force that's becoming like an invisible entity that's been stalking her throughout the rest of the film, and she's having to basically.
It makes you kind of a mystery of wondering if it's Adrian doing it or if it's all in her head and she's going psycho.
Yeah. Now here's some backstory. Now, this is a new contemporary take that they decided to do based off of The Invisible Man from not only the original novel, but also, if you remember from the 30s, we had the original Invisible Man classic monster movie, which even to this day, upon rewatching it recently, I still think it really holds up as a really great story, and it's one of my favorite old classic horror films.
See, I'm not really, I haven't went and seen, I've seen spots and sporadically scenes of, old, dark universe monster films, and it's funny enough that I don't think I personally seen one full one. So I need to go back and see. But I do know enough to know who they are.
Yeah. And this movie, believe it or not, is now basically what is now considered the newest attempt that they've been trying to do with trying to start what's called the Dark Universe, which
is the
reboot of the bringing back the classic Universal monsters, which, if you may remember, we actually started back in 2014 with Dracula Untold. But some people, if they don't remember, the one from 2010, the Wolfman remake, was supposedly a secret way of trying to create that franchise to bring them back. And on the concept, I'm all idea for them doing the classic monsters in a modern take.
Yeah, I was.
Because I love a lot of the classic horror monsters, and it would be great to bring them all back in a shared universe.
Yeah,
and that's what
cool.
And that's what they tried to do 3 years ago with The Mummy with Tom Cruise, but that one failed miserably because they literally tried to rush it
here's my theory of them. Not trying to say I'm going to review them all, but let me give you a quick concept. While a lot of people do like Wolfman, I found it to be extremely boring, but there were some cool things I liked about it. And then I haven't seen really fully Dracula Untold. However, I did watch a lot of scenes off YouTube. I will admit that it looked too blockbustery, Michael Bay-ish to be a vampire movie.
Yeah.
So from what I've heard, that's what it did, and that's a bad concept. Horrible concept with a Dracula film. And I did go see The Mummy with him, and you see our review on it, it's fucking terrible. I think everybody agreed that was a bad movie.
Essentially killed the franchise because with all three films, they basically failed at the box office and critically. And so Universal was going through a lot of things with trying to go with more what they call more self-contained movies. Kind of like, separately off topic, it's kind of like what DC's now doing with their self-contained standalone movies, like Joker from last year.
And so whenever I heard this movie was going to be made, I saw the trailers. Of course, it looked great. But what really got my peak of hypeness was Leigh Whannell being tied to this. Leigh Whannell, phenomenal director, the guy who created Saw, gave us the best twist ending. And then he did Upgrade
a couple years ago.
Fucking amazing. He did it again. This guy seems like he can't fail, and he's, to me, is one of the most underrated directors and writers in Hollywood today. I feel like he's the Quentin Tarantino of horror films. And as long as you let him do his own, which he has so far up until we'll get into this story in a second. So I was already pumped and ready to see not only the movie, but see what Leigh Whannell has at the end for us again. Because I know that guy was going to have something, and I'll get into that in a second. But upon seeing the movie, I will say that it was pretty good. I do have some problems with it, but overall, it's still a really good movie.
Yeah, I gotta admit, this is one of the best as far as rebooted horror classic monster movies, this is the best one they've done, I think, in years.
Yeah.
And I was glad to see them do a fresh, unique take on the movie with the idea of becoming invisible and stuff, and having to survive from someone you can't see.
Yeah,
and,
which we got in Hollow Man years ago.
Yeah, that's what I feel was an underrated film too.
It's an underrated film.
It was loosely based also on the book by H.G. Wells, but they did kind of their own thing with it. But that one, I think, really showed the idea of someone being invisible can go so many different ways.
Yeah.
And they show a lot of fucking brutality in that movie.
Yeah, not only the most detailed rape scene other than the last house on the left, probably the other most detailed rape scene.
Yeah.
But brutality and the creativeness of the kills in that movie was great. But yeah, getting in this film, I thought it was really good. Getting into my pros, starting with, I think the highlight of this film, which was probably one of the strongest things, was Elizabeth Moss's performance.
Yeah.
This is probably one of her best performances I've ever seen her. I mean, I haven't watched every movie she's done, but I will say that I've watched. I watched The Kitchen last year.
And then also Us.
It's definitely better than that.
Well, Us.
That she did better in this than Us.
Yeah.
And then I saw a comedy she was in with Jonah Hill years ago.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And again, obviously she was better. This is probably the best film I've seen her ever done. She's done in her career, and I think her acting is so fucking realistic in this film.
It is. It definitely seems like she goes. You just really feel so like on the edge for her. It's like a woman that goes through so much trauma from being abused and everything,
sexually assaulted.
It's that and also being just like trying to get away from a fucking monster like a guy like this. It just shows the obstacles that she has to go through, and she really pulls it off. And I really highly enjoyed her performance.
And the way they made her look so aged from stress, as you see the weeks go by, she's looking more pale, bags in the eyes, she won't sleep. Like, you can tell she's being truly haunted. You're wondering, like, in a mystery type of way, which I kind of liked, was, man, what the fuck this dude do to her? She won't go outside. She was scared to go to the fucking mailbox. And when she does, she starts seeing him running towards her. And it becomes like the psychological thing, which I will say another highlight of this film is the psychological approach to this film. You don't see that done very good in a lot of films, but I think this is one of the best attempts at it in a while. Yeah,
especially because throughout the course of the film, you're trying to see, what exactly, because there's a lot of things that it's hard to explain without going into spoilers, but let's just say that when they do this approach with having her trying to prove to people, what's going on with this fucking invisible guy. Yeah. There's actually some shit that I gotta admit that actually just comes out of nowhere, and it builds upon that whole like twist on you in a way that builds a lot of tension up.
Yeah, the tension is brought up very good, and I love the way Leigh Whannell, and again, this is him and his phenomenal camera angles. I love how it does something you don't see very often, and it's like they pan off from the actor and they make you think, is he sitting there? If he's standing there, and you
see like a little object kind of move,
like you see like the seats kind of like go down, and that's when you know he's there. But they'll also offset the camera to where they're looking in hallways and you're wondering, like, is he walking? Is he standing right there? It's clever.
Yeah,
it's something I've never seen.
Well, that and also with the way that that's the other thing with the camera work, the way that they're able to have a lot of establishing shots, especially in the beginning when we first like see like the credits and stuff, and it flashes with the waves and stuff, and then you have her like a whole like 10-minute scene or 4 minutes where she's leaving the house and everything, and it really stays on her like trying to go through this. One of the biggest things about that is there's mostly no music. Like most of the scenes have no fucking music.
Yeah,
or no score playing.
There wasn't no score. Later half they kind of go with that a little bit, but like at the beginning we get this 10-minute segment of her escaping when he's asleep. She drugged him so she can escape to get away from him, and he's like this like illusionist, optic engineer type guy, and of course he has like a fucking fortress of military grade weaponry, and he has that shit so advanced he's trying to find obstacle ways of getting out. And I will tell you right now, there's no score playing, and this is how you do jump scares, where she's creeping around and there's nothing playing, it's just total silence, and then she accidentally bumped into a fucking dog bowl.
Yeah.
That scared the fuck out of me.
That did, yeah.
Shit like that is how you do jump scares. Not that building up the fucking music. And go, oh, I hate that shit. Bothers the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
So, they did the scares very well in this film.
And I gotta also appreciate when it does show it.
Yeah.
There are some unexpected moments that I thought were pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah.
When it does show it, not the whole extreme, but like when it does show it, it comes out of nowhere. It was very suspenseful, and it really kind of gave me anxiety when I was watching it.
I'll tell you what I also, when we were talking about this earlier, when we were talking about everything in the film, there's something I gotta praise about what they did was, I like how this so-called, if he's there or not there, I'm not gonna spoil it, is framing her of crimes.
Yeah, of murders and stuff.
Yeah, like, he's setting everything up in motion, or is he? And, like, the part where the little girl, if you saw in the trailers, gets attacked.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, her father comes in, he's going to think it's the girl. Who's going to believe you whenever you say, well, it was a visible man, it was him?
Yeah, you're obviously, you're going to see the person that's there in physical form.
And you're going to not believe it, so you got her explaining, like, the part also where the certain person dies and then she ends up with the weapon.
Yeah.
So you're wondering, is she doing it?
Yeah.
And that's what I thought was going to pull, which would have been kind of clever in my eyes if they were going to do that. But then, I'm not going to spoil it.
But one of the other things is, that's what I'm saying. Like, the movie, it does have a good psychological feel that I enjoy to the most part, and it's
intense.
It's intense in some scenes,
yeah.
especially. And when it gets to its like climax or whatever or anything, it starts to also become stuff similar to Hollow Man with the way that they do the physical, because the movie doesn't rely too much on CGI to an extent, but when it does show like some of the glimpses of the Invisible Man, it's done pretty well to where you can see where he's at and stuff. And there's even like scenes where like she'll throw stuff at him and it reveals like they show like the visible part of him.
Yeah, invisible part where you start kind of seeing that, because you don't get that in the first half. You literally don't see anything, and it's a very slow burner. So for you guys that don't like slow burners, I mean, it could be bothersome because they do a character study more than anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, that first half, it's more like not seeing anything if he's there or not. Then it gets to where we start seeing more of the effects.
Yeah.
In the second half, but
it's again some of my. This is now where I kind of get to a little bit of my minor cons.
Yeah.
While I do enjoy the film's like way of showing of good, well, to lead into this, the movie also has a good social message about what it goes through with a woman being abused and stuff.
Yeah.
And the way that she's basically traumatized. And let's just say that it does pay off in that social message in the end of it.
Yeah.
And it actually worked really well. And I'm going to leave it there because I'm just saying the movie does satisfy with the way it approaches that message.
If you want to see like the somewhat of a message, kind of heroish type ending, you're going to get that in this film. But getting the cons now, I will say that like one of my biggest complaints was the ending. I did felt like I guess you could say that I went into this film thinking about Leigh Whannell as like Godfather of fucking twist endings with Saw and Upgrade, and I even heard with Insidious they did that kind of twist.
Well,
and then I go into this, and the ending was very predictable, and I was kind of blown away. Yeah, and I'm wondering if it didn't feel like Leigh Whannell. It felt like the studio got involved.
Yeah, I felt like, because look, I haven't read really much of the report, but I'm thinking that they probably wanted to do a hard reset to set up the Dark Universe in the future, and I think that the way they approached it with the ending was they wanted to lead into that for future films.
Basically, it feels like, because Leigh Whannell's the type of director, he's like Quentin Tarantino, where he does all the work, and I felt like whenever he got involved in this, they let him, but it feels like at the ending, they kind of said, we agree you do this, create Patrol, but we changed the ending.
Yeah.
And you can see that because the ending is abrupt. It's, in a way, kind of really anticlimactic in kind of a way.
Yeah.
Because it comes so quick.
It does, yeah.
And just, like, it kind of weakens the villain a little bit, or so to speak villain. I'm not going to tell you. I want to keep that open right there.
But one of my other biggest things, too, is that the film doesn't really, like, spend a whole lot of time with the actual like person that's abusing Elizabeth Moss, like Adrian. I think that they could have really put more into detail, like give us more of like what caused him to start doing this
why
whole
is he
abusive
the
stuff.
way he is?
And it would have been good to at least flesh some things out, because I appreciate they wanted to do the whole mystery about you don't really much know who the actual person is, because that does work in certain horror
That
films.
only works if we would have just got the Invisible Man and not know who he is or what he is.
Yeah.
But the fact that we went for a human character that became that, and there was a story about the commentary of beating on a woman and being abusive, and then they don't really go into why he's a genius. What is he a genius of? And why did he do what he did? And then they introduce another character who's, I don't want to spoil anything. There's some kind of thing, part of something of the story, and then they do some kind of twist that I was not on board with. They could have went a different direction. Kind of hard to explain without fucking spoiling that.
But it's just one
that's
of the
the issue I have.
They definitely could have fleshed things out too, because there's a couple
lot
of
flesh out
scenes
problems.
that I heard that they cut out, possibly either for timing or to for some other reasons. And I think what they had in mind was to establish more of who the guy was and everything.
Yeah, another thing I have an issue with was what they could have done with this Invisible Man. The fact that and this is another thing that blew me away with Leigh Whannell, because hell, that guy not only can write great stories, twist endings, but he knows balance. He could do all that and make gory films.
Like Saw.
Instead of oversaturating gore where a lot of people get turned off. He could do both. He did with Upgrade. Upgrade was fucking brutal as shit.
Yeah.
And this was kind of watered down, which kind of killed some of the creativity the Invisible Man could have done to other people. Instead, we get a lot of punching, gunshots, stabbing throats.
Yeah.
I mean, we get the same saturated kills.
Yeah, it's
over
not
and over.
It's not as creative
great.
that it should have been, because it was more of... It's playing more of the psychological feel of it, which I get, but it's like you could have really done more. Because that's what I appreciate with Hollow Man more too, was that they got into more of the really like creative kills that Kevin Bacon did in that movie.
That's what I'm saying. So, I will say that on the creative kills and obviously the brutality and gore, Hollow Man did it far better, but this one did better on the story aspect as far as psychological. They wanted to keep in that grounds, which I appreciate, but then it goes to that level where it's like, okay, we are going to show you these things and we're going to get brutal and so on and so forth, but then you don't.
Yeah, it's like...
So it's like you introduced it already. And got on that level where you should get brutal, and now you're not. It's the same kill to another person, like same kill, like the part where he gets up with all those cops.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking kill in each one of them.
Yeah.
And that kind of bothered me. It's like, can they not do it, change it up a bit?
Yeah, it would have been a lot better with that.
Yeah.
So, but overall, though, I did highly enjoy the film a lot, and while it's not gonna... It's definitely not going to make probably my list or anything, but I will say it's definitely the first great horror film really good horror film for this year at least of 2020. And with that, I'm going to go, because I did have like a lot of like investment and everything with the story and stuff, and to an extent I agree with the ending. Could have been better, but I see with the way they like really kind of pulled it off with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a high compelling grade on the Film Phreeks meter.
Alright, I'm just going regular compelling grade in Film Phreeks meter. Actually, it for the most part it was on my expectations, but then there's some things that I was actually disappointed in. But compelling grade. Yeah.
Fair enough. For those of you who have also seen The Invisible Man and also the original classic horror Invisible Man movies as well, and the novel that it's based off of, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. If you like what you see here, feel free to subscribe and like our channel, and we'll see you in our next review. We'll see you later.